a really interesting presentation on how NotebookLM works, and it'll be sort of interactive. So if you do have the ability to follow along, it will be very beneficial. And I think he's even going to have some of you or one of you who's a brave volunteer be able to join in and learn a little bit more about how it works. So I hope everybody has a lovely Friday, and without further ado, turn it over to Larry.
Good morning, everybody. Feel free to unmute yourself. I'm hoping that this is going to be an interactive workshop type of a presentation. So today we're going to learn a little bit, if you don't know much about it already, about a tool that Google came out with about a year ago called NotebookLM. NotebookLM is an interactive artificial intelligence research assistant. It allows you to have multiple sources. It'll synthesize the content of those multiple sources and allow you to query them on pretty much any topic that you're interested in learning about. So can I get some response here? How many of you have used NotebookLM in the past?
I have not used it ever, really.
And who is that?
I'm Charlie. I'm one of the navigators.
Oh, hi, Charlie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How about the rest of you?
Yeah, I've never used it. I'm a Stefan. I'm an adjunct in English.
Okay. Okay, cool. Anyone else? All right, so that kind of gives me a starting point as to where I should begin. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll walk through some of the very basic first steps, and then we'll see if we can get someone to volunteer and have them share their screen, and then I'll have you walk through the whole process. All right, so let's see if I can do this right. Share my screen. I also turn down the audio. All right. Are you all seeing my NotebookLM screen?
Yep, we're good.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to start off by creating a new notebook. So to access NotebookLM, you would open up a browser. I'm using Microsoft Edge right now, and your address is notebooklm.google.com. And all you need to do to log on to this is have a Google account. So if you've got a Gmail account, you're all set to go there. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new notebook. And that'll bring you to this screen. So to get started, you have to have a source material. And your source materials can be of a number of different formats. So for example here, the file types that you can put in here would be PDFs, MP3s, or .wav wave files. So it does take audio content as well for source materials. So for students, or for those of you who are recording meetings, you could actually use those recordings and throw them into a notebook to keep track of all of the things that happens for you. So I know in an academic setting, sometimes I'll have students try to read an academic article. Some of those articles are pretty dense, but they are in PDF format, so I'll throw them into NotebookLM and let NotebookLM kind of dissect it for me to kind of figure out what the key points are in that article, rather than having to slog through a lot of detail that I don't quite understand because I'm not a doctoral student in that area. Other useful links that you can put in there. You can link to a particular website, or you can also use as a source a YouTube article or YouTube video that you find that you want your students or that you yourself are interested in learning about. You can also paste some text directly into the prompt here to use that as a source material. Now, there's a new feature. There's a new feature here called Discover Sources. And if you click on Discover Sources, you'll be able to specify, if you will, the general area that you would be interested in learning about. So does anybody have a topic they would like to kind of experiment with? I think I heard someone say that they were an English adjunct.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, my camera's not. I'm having some technical difficulties. But yeah, you could, I don't know. I'm teaching the humanities class right now, and any topic from that could be kind of fun to see what it digs up.
All right, give me an example of a topic you might be talking about.
I mean, like how specific should this be? We just got done covering like the Enlightenment.
All right, so let's just type in the Enlightenment.
Yeah.
I'll get my cap locks off. Let's see, ENLIGHTMENT. How's that?
I mean, it should correct. I think there's an E and an N. Yeah.
Should correct it. All right,
Yeah.
so then if you go ahead and submit it, with this Discover Sources, NotebookLM is going to actually go out and scrape the internet and come up with 10 pretty high quality sources here. Now you can actually investigate each of these sources individually by clicking on this icon right here, and it'll take you to that web page in this case. So if you did not want that to be one of your sources, if you did not want that to be one of your sources, you just deselect the arrow over here on the right. Okay. So let's boil this down to just one for now. So I'm going to come down here and deselect all but that one there. Probably should take a look at it. All right, so this looks like it's just like a web article that's talking about the Enlightenment. Deselect these. So once you get onto NotebookLM and you create your first notebook, you want to add some sources. So I've deselected all but the one we just took a brief look at, and then I'll click on Submit or Import, I'm sorry. And this will bring you to the NotebookLM main interface. And there are three primary panels. The first one over here to the left is your sources panel. The one in the middle is referred to as your chat panel. And the one over to the right is referred to your studio panel. Okay. Now in the chat panel, it has created a bit of a summary of all of your sources. In this case, we only have the one source. So you see here, the provided text originated from a history.com, primarily offers an overview of the Enlightenment. So it gives you a summary of what that article is all about in the event that you haven't read it first. This is a quick way to go through to see whether it's worth your time and effort to go through the entire article or not. Now, if you look down towards the bottom of your chat section, you'll see that we have some other icons we can click on. First of these would be the mind map. But before I click on that, I want to show you over here on the studio view, there's nothing yet here at the bottom of the studio view panel. But as soon as I click on mind map, it's going to begin to generate a mind map. Now that it is done, if I click on this link over here in my studio view, it's going to bring up a mind map and it's going to show you some of the key points. So the main theme here is the Enlightenment. It then breaks that down into three subcategories. And you can see here that we got these little arrows pointing to the right to each of these three categories. And if you click on the arrow, it's going to expand that into more subcategories, such as regional variations, different approaches among thinkers, common themes, regional questioning beliefs in progress, and anything with another arrow to the right of it, you can expand even farther. So you can keep going down, drilling down as far as you want to. Now, if you right click on any one of these nodes, if you left click on any one of these nodes, double click on it, it's going to create a summary of that particular sub point, if you will. And then if you click, use your left arrow and click into that chat area, you'll then be able to read it, what it has to say about it. And down towards the bottom, in the normal chat box window, it's going to give you some sample questions as, for example here, how did the Enlightenment begin? You can click on that. It'll generate an answer for you. So this is a good way to get students or yourself, if you will, to thinking in terms of what questions or how can I interrogate this data or this resource to see if I can increase my understanding of what they're getting at. So that's the mind map. Now, if I exit out of this by hitting my back arrow in my browser, I'm going to get out of NotebookLM. Brings me back to this page, but it says, okay, now I want to go back to it. And it's not behaving like I thought it would. There we go. Refresh it. Because I did not save that note, it didn't save it to my NotebookLM, so I've essentially lost it. So I would have to go back through the mind map again and recreate it. And it's going to be slightly different than the one before. So if you do want to save something, so it's persistent, you would come down here and save to note. And what that'll do is that'll put this into your studio panel over here as a note. Now when you go back out of this and then back into it, you'll still be able to use this as a note. Now, if you wanted this to actually be an additional source, you can make that an additional source as well. All right. Now, one of the really interesting things about NotebookLM, unlike other chat box that you could use, such as OpenAI or Gemini, which use the entire content to train on of the internet, you know, there's some stuff out there on the internet maybe you're not interested in learning about. What NotebookLM does is it restricts its analysis to the information that's contained in your sources. So this reduces the possibility of NotebookLM to actually create some hallucinations or make facts up or make stories up about it. So this is a way to kind of tailor your research to specific areas rather than opening it wide open to the internet. In addition, Google claims that they do not use any of this information that you are using in your source material as training material for their larger language models. So there's a little more privacy by using this. So that was the mind map feature. And you can access and create those through the chat panel. Over here on the left, or excuse me, here on the right, you can create what is known as audio overviews. And what this is going to do is going to create a podcast between two artificial intelligence hosts that you can use, you can play back and listen to rather than having to read the entire article to see whether or not it's worth your time. And to do that, you just simply click on generate. All right, so those are some of the very first basic steps that you can use. You can also create a study guide by clicking on the study guide link, and it's going to go through and create a study guide that you or your students or whoever's using your NotebookLM can access. And what your study guide is going to do is going to create a short little quiz. So what was the long 18th century and what major intellectual movements took place during this period? Gives you an answer key down here. It'll also generate some essay format questions, analyze the key role of the 17th century figures like Isaac Newton and John Locke. And what I've done in the past is I would create a study guide and then I would copy, for example, I would copy an essay question and paste it into another large language model such as OpenAI or Gemini and use that as a prompt. And that would then generate a document that I could read and get a little more understanding of what they're getting at here. So there's lots of things that you can do with the information that what NotebookLM will generate for you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. But before I do, I want to show you a new feature here. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a link to the ability to share this notebook. So if I click on this, and I'm going to change this from restricted access to anyone who has a link. Then if I click on copy link, it creates a URL for me. Go ahead and save that. I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing. I'm going to go into chat. Where's my chat? Here it is. And I'm going to paste that URL into the chat. Now, if this is working right, you all should be able to copy that link or click on it, and that should take you to that notebook that we just created. See if that works for you.
I don't see the link yet in the chat.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, let me zoom in here. It's not showing up yet.
No, it just says
No.
that you're typing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not typing. All right, let's see if we can do this differently here. So it wants me to sign in. Not quite sure why I'm getting this. Try a different way around this. So is it Charlie?
Yes.
Okay, Charlie, I'm gonna see if I can send you an email
Okay.
with that link in it and see if that'll work. All right, it's on its way. Let me, let me know if you got it.
Just put it in the chat for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what's nice about this, and it's relatively new. This is like within the last month or so, this became available so that I can share this particular notebook LM with anybody who has the link, which would be useful in in a collaborative environment or in a classroom where the instructor had created a notebook, wanted to share it with his students, or if you had an assignment where you wanted to have the students do some research on their own and they could then share back with you or the rest of the class. So Charlie, you as a navigator, you might want to share content with your fellow navigators, and you could create a notebook where everybody could put their meeting notes in there and kind of have a central repository. So how's that link work?
Yeah, it
Link
seems to be
worked
working.
great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, all right. So we good on the basics so far? Now, see if you can edit that link at all, not the link itself, but see if you can create a mind map or a study guide or meeting notes or anything like that. I'm not clear from the Google Documents whether or not, if I share it, whether or not you have the ability to make any changes to it. One change that you might want to consider would be to generate an audio overview.
Hmm.
It may not work because it was a shared notebook.
Yeah, when I click on like different parts of it, whether it's the mind map or like a different note, it just opens up a chat with like further information for me, but it doesn't let me. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's making any edits for you on your end.
yeah, that was my concern or my understanding. I would like there for to be some capabilities to do that, but it kind of limits, you know, the collaborative efforts that you might want to have here. Um, okay, so who would like to be the guinea pig here and walk through these steps? I don't like the word guinea pig, but the volunteer. We got a Steve and a Steven.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having some technical difficulty, but I could try for a few minutes. I could try to do something. I have the link you sent me, and I was trying to play around with it.
Sure. All right. So what you want to do, was that Steve?
Yeah,
Steven?
Stefan.
Stefan?
I don't know the Steve. Yeah, I don't know if that's me trying to log in earlier.
All right. So go ahead and share your screen. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
my Stefan used Teams a lot. Okay. And sure. Okay. Okay, so I went and started to do a new notebook, but I can go back, I believe.
No,
To,
this is cool. Right
okay.
from scratch is probably a good
Yeah.
idea.
So, yeah, what should I do then? What do you want me to?
So your first step here after you've opened up NotebookLM is to add a source if this is a new notebook.
Yeah.
So like I say, there are a lot of different formats.
All right, let me get out of my thing here. Okay, so discover. So just go search something. Yeah. All right, here. Let's do this because that came up in class. So it's gonna be big. Okay. So I just narrow it down to one, like you were doing before. Yeah.
Or you can put all 10 in if you want to. And so like I say, you can have up to, on the free version, you can have up to 50 sources. You're not restricted to just one like you would with a
Okay. I'll
open
take out
AI. Yeah.
the Reddit source. Maybe I'll get rid of that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about Reddit sources?
Uh,
I'm a little leery of them myself.
yeah, I don't know. There's no vetting at all, right? So
No.
yeah.
I
and
don't
it's-
accept Reddit or
Yeah.
Wikipedia in any of my courses that I teach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to use this to discover sources, you'll want to review them. In a lot of ways, I kind of liken this process right here through when you're going through a trial, it's supposed to be based on evidence, and you want to have the strongest evidence you can to make the arguments you want and eliminate as much bias as possible. So you definitely want to vet at these sources that they generate.
Yeah, it's pretty varied. I mean, there's like a dissertation here, and then there's Wikipedia and Reddit. It's interesting what they pull up.
Now,
All right, I'll just do these three then.
yeah, you can also, for example, when you say discover sources, you can say restrict my sources to a particular format. You can say restrict your sources to the most, make sure the sources are less than a year old or something like that. So you can put some parameters on there that narrows down its search field, if you will.
That makes sense.
All right. Now over here on the left, you can see one of those is highlighted in red.
Yeah.
Now,
Is that because there's a paywall or something? Is that the?
yeah, that's usually the case. And what you would want to do here, it's if you don't want that there, you can actually, there should be like an ellipsis to the left of that. And if you click on that, you can remove that source.
Got it.
So that's how we know how to add sources. Obviously, you can either discover or click on the add button up there. But there are going to be times when you want to prune, if you will, your source list by doing that activity there. Okay. Now,
Cool.
one of the features here in NotebookLM that really caught everybody's attention initially was the ability to generate a podcast.
Yeah.
So over here to the right, in the studio panel, you can see where it says generate.
Hmm.
If you just click on that,
And this will do it for both of the sources as is right now.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, before you do that, I want you to, there's a button right next to it that says customize.
Yeah.
In the customize button, you can specify, rather than it analyzing the entirety or giving every point in the sources equal weight, you can tell it to focus in on a particular aspect of the sources that you're more interested in. But you have the ability to customize your podcast as well. So go ahead and generate.
Yeah. It actually isn't letting me. I mean, I don't need to. Oh, there it does. Okay, never mind. Okay, I'll just generate as is. Yeah.
Now this is going to generate like I say, essentially a podcast between two artificial intelligence people. And it doesn't really sound like, I don't know if you've never heard of this before, heard these guys before, but it doesn't really sound like computer generated voices.
Yeah.
So,
No, I had a LinkedIn. It went and like generated podcasts for like content if you put it up there. I don't know if you've seen that happen. Like you, and not LinkedIn, academia.edu. So it did this for something I had uploaded there like a while ago, which was kind of a trip. Yeah.
that was at academia.
I think yeah, they started. I think it's a way for them to try to advertise getting you to go through the more expensive account, but they took my dissertation and they made a podcast about it, which was
Pretty cool.
before I knew this was a technology that was kind of scary. Yeah, very strange.
So this will take a few minutes usually, and it's going to generate a podcast that's generally somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes long. And here you'll have these two AI voices discussing the content, or a synthesis, if you will, of all of your sources. I use this in my class, particularly in the online classes. I don't know if, because you're teaching English courses, your students may not be as adverse to reading material as maybe my students who are in networking or computer networking.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish that was true, but it's mostly CEP classes. So the technology is this would mostly, I guess, right now would be used by me to like do some research and while I'm driving, think about things. Because
well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You can download these podcasts and you can listen to them in your car, whereas you can't. You really shouldn't be reading while you're driving.
Yeah.
So I have a number of my students who actually will download the podcast before the chapter, and as they commute either to work or between home and school, they can be listening to that. And all right, so you can see that it's done.
Right.
Now, I think if you go up to your share icon again, I think in Teams,
Oh, I got you.
I think you can turn on your audio. So if you click on that, right at the top.
Yeah. Is it going to share it? I can't tell.
I'm not.
I can try.
Go ahead and play your audio. See if we hear it.
What truly defines a family? Is it really just about biology, or maybe a specific gender pairing, or is it?
Did you hear any of that?
No? Yes. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So yeah.
Something else entirely. These are questions many of us think about today. But what if I told you these exact issues were being radically explored centuries ago by a literary giant, no less?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. we're looking at his works, his surprisingly modern ideas about family,
Okay.
and also the powerful forces that kind of shaped his thinking. We're drawing on some great material in an article from the University of Rochester about his families of the heart,
Ah, yes.
and also looking at the whole Sturm and Drang movement.
Right. Storm and stress.
Go
Yeah.
ahead
So
and
let's
pause
unpack
it.
that. Early 19th century Germany. Goethe starts talking about.
All right, now, underneath this, you can see interactive mode.
Hmm.
Go ahead and click on that. Now at the bottom, you should see something that's like it says join.
Yeah.
All right, now, what this is going to allow you to do is to ask these two artificial intelligence podcasters a question as they are talking and going through their podcast.
Sure.
So maybe you could say, as this starts up, ask them a question like, could you tell me more about this particular individual?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to let me do it. It might be something with how I logged into Teams because it's not a. But I
it's
should
not
hit play. If I hit
Yep.
play, then okay.
If
all
you
right.
hit play, now you see you can.
What truly defines a family? Is it really just about biology, or maybe a specific gender pairing, or is it?
What's
Oh,
the
hey,
German
our
word
listener
for
wants to join
family
in. What's
that he
up?
uses? Does that work?
Yeah, go ahead and.
Okay.
It-
I don't know what does he really mean by family? I guess.
That's a great.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. What does he really mean by family? And does it? It looked like it
That
was
is
going to
such a good question, and honestly, it's the core of what we're unpacking today with Goethe.
Absolutely. When we say which, it highlights that very struggle.
Because for centuries, society has pushed one specific idea of family.
The traditional biological pairing, often arranged for status or money.
Right, and that's exactly what Johann Wolfgang von Goethe was pushing back against in his time.
What's fascinating here is that Goethe
Yeah, so it's giving you some ability to interact with the podcasters, if you will,
Mhm.
but it doesn't save your question and their reply to the actual underlying audio file itself.
Mhm.
But if you share out your screen to your students and stuff like that, they do have the ability to ask questions and get some response. So this is a technology that is evolving. You can see that this was actually in beta form. It might be the case where you're going to be able to save a separate audio file eventually, but at this point you don't. But it can create that audio file, which enables additional accessibility to your materials that you're trying to learn from. So that's kind of neat. All
Yeah.
right. Should pause here to see if any of you have any questions on the material we've covered so far.
No questions for me.
Any thoughts on how you might be able to use this tool? I know, Charlie, you as a navigator have a different viewpoint than I do as a faculty member, because I'm thinking in terms of how I can use this as a instructional tool or to help me prepare for some topic I'm not as familiar with as I want to be.
Yeah, so for me, as a navigator, it doesn't have a huge role yet that I can see with it, but I'm also an adjunct instructor, so I think that it could still really benefit me in my multiple adjunct roles and with the courses that I teach and as new information comes out. So I think it's a really interesting way also just to organize your information and to be able to share it across multiple platforms, because like Google Docs is like a good place to throw everything in there, but if a student isn't using a Gmail, or like navigators are still using Outlook, so it's hard to share things to the students sometimes. So I think that this could be a useful tool for sure. It's been interesting. I'm just impressed that it knew how to pronounce Goethe. So
It doesn't always get the pronunciation correct, but usually you can figure out what they're talking about. I see Mr. Steve Tuckey has joined us. Steve, have you used NotebookLM?
Just a smidge. I started using it, developing basically a notebook that I could hand off to my students, and then they would be able to pick it up and use it. I tried it with one unit last spring in an astronomy class, and it was mixed success. The audio that was generated, the podcast that was generated was okay, but I had my students tell me, they would rather listen to me just talk about it, which I guess is a good sign. I take that as a good sign, but maybe they were just maybe they were just flattering me. I don't know. So.
But for computer generated voices, I think it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody was amazed. All the students were like, "Wow, this is amazing." And so, what I told them, and what I tell most people, is that when I try using this stuff, I'm trying to open the range of possibilities for them for thinking about in the future, right? Because nobody in that class was planning on becoming an astronomer, at least at the beginning. And so the way I thought about it was giving them an opportunity to see how you'd use tools like this to explore and kind of iteratively kind of dive into material. And so if you find something that's really interesting, you can kind of zoom in, zoom in, zoom in from there. And that's really cool and useful. So.
Yeah, I found that there are times when I want my students to read some material that's maybe over their head as far as reading difficulty goes, because the topic is probably new to them. I find that the audio overview, I don't want to say dumbs it down, but it makes it more accessible for folks who are new to it. So it's a good introduction to a topic, and it also is a quick way for me if I come up with a academic article that some research on artificial intelligence, for example, that some PhDs from the Ivy League schools have put out, allows me to kind of get a gist of what they're talking about before I spend the time to try to decipher the whole thing. So it has some good uses.
Yeah, I will say to Charlie's question, helping guide students and think about how to enhance their note-taking skills. That's one thing that I want to explore with using it and this fall is giving students a chance to take some notes on a topic and then maybe compare what the mind map or compare what the Notebook LM material produces so that they can compare those two and say, hey, how do my notes stack up with this AI generated note file, and are they paying attention to is the system paying attention to the same important stuff? And so I'm eager to try that out. I haven't had a chance really to try that out, but I will say, Larry, to your point about simplifying, maybe would be a better
Yeah,
phrase to use.
yeah,
Simplifying
probably.
the material.
Yeah.
But it is one of the early uses for a lot of people for chat GPT or Gemini or other things like that is to phrase your prompts in the form of, can you explain this topic to me as if I were a 6-year-old or something like that, and force it into that role of kind of simplifying and condensing. And it obviously it doesn't allow you to get the depth and the nuance of topics. And the other thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't challenge you with some of the big words, and in science and in mathematics and technical fields. And Larry, I'd imagine in your area as well, there are just some words that are big words that you just have to learn, and you just have to learn how to use and navigate. And so this is a nice way of maybe introducing students to topics, but then maybe working in the importance of that reading comprehension and being able to make sense of the bigger topics. I think it needs to be scaffolded though, and that for
Yeah.
me that's a big part of this discussion. How do we do that?
Over the summer here, I've been spending some time researching Bloom's taxonomy. And as you're probably aware, I've been spending quite a bit of time creating multiple choice questions and using those questions as a quiz, if you will. And And you can then take some of these content areas that the mind map will give you, or you can take some of the discussion questions that NotebookLM will create for you and use those as prompts in a large language model such as OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Gemini, and specify that as a topic and have it scaffold out some questions based on the Bloom's taxonomy, and use those as low stakes testing, if you will, to begin to ratchet their understanding up from a low level to the create level. So there's quite a bit of possibilities. If you use NotebookLM, I tend to use it with other AI tools such as ChatGPT or Gemini, and I'll use both of those as kind of a second opinion, like you might with a doctor, to see whether or not there's an agreement between what one AI is saying and another AI is saying, so that I can reduce the possibility of hallucinations. So NotebookLM, because it's restricted to just the sources that you specify, reduces the possibility of hallucinations. So you can rely more upon your source material as your ultimate guide on this. And of course, within the chat box within NotebookLM, you can put any of those prompts that would create multiple choice questions for you as well. So I find it to be quite a useful tool.
The other thing, Larry, that I was going to ask you, because you've used this a lot, have you ever put kind of your own material into it, maybe reading material or text or whatever, and then discovered that when it does the kind of synthesis, that some of the points that you in your thinking are like, okay, these are the important things. Some of those things don't get brought up, and maybe that has been useful for you for reflecting on your prepared material, and you're like, oh wow, this topic I think is really important, but it must be framed in such a way that it doesn't seem that way to the AI, and maybe it doesn't seem that way to students either.
Well, I've not done so much with my own material. I did that with a former dean. She sent an email where she was outlining some issues. It's quite a long email, and I put that content in there and had the audio overview actually generate a podcast based upon it. And I sent that to her, and it, it, it was quite impactful, let's just say, for her to hear artificial intelligence reflect on her thoughts. It was quite impactful.
Was it a fair representation, or?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes, it very much so. One thing I do find that maybe you all have never done this before, but you'll be browsing the internet, you'll find an article, and then there'll be a thread that links to another article, and you go on through it, and you close that, and you come back a couple of days later and say, now, what was that again? Now, what's nice about NotebookLM is you can actually, capture that URL and put that right away in your notebook and have it available for you to come back and give it some thought. So you're not always looking for those links that you forgot that you visited to. So, well, getting close to the 10 o'clock or the 11 o'clock hour. Anyone else have thoughts on what they've seen today? Now, there is
One
a
thing. Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
As you say, one thing I'm thinking of is finding ways to maybe make this part of the stable of tutoring tools and kind of learning skills tools that gets taught and encouraged and guided in the Center for Student Success.
Sure.
And helping students kind of learn it from other sources. Because I mean, it's one of those like that it can be a pretty powerful tool, but only if it's well scaffolded and strategized with people who are thinking about learning in specific ways. And so I think maybe this becomes a topic that we can bring up with the folks in CSS as a something that we want to encourage students to use, but in smart ways and useful ways and meaningful ways that are not just meaningful for the class, but also helping them become better consumers of these kind of tools and users of these tools in their own learning.
Now, Google just announced here in the last few days, they have a new feature where they actually have curated notebook LMs. I don't know if you've seen any of this recently. Let me go ahead and quickly pull up a link here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see this, what it does here. All right, so the title of this is called New Featured Notebooks. They're called featured notebooks. And what these are notebooks that are public notebooks that are kind of like reading lists, if you will, if you're familiar with some of the online libraries. And essentially, let me go ahead and fire this one up. Let's see now. All right, so there are a few featured notebooks that they have created. So for example here, I haven't done this one yet. An advice notebook based upon the best-selling author Arthur C. Brooks, How to Build a Life Columns in Atlantic. So this is a public notebook that's got, you know, a good number of articles in it. They've got one there that's got the entire works of Shakespeare listed in that, and you can create podcasts, so you can begin to go in here and fool around with these to learn about these various topics that they have. So this is kind of a new feature that they have. I'm not quite sure why my chat's not letting me. Why it's not letting me put anything in here. Anyway. So if you go to Google the keyword and you just type in this whole thing about featured notebooks, you should be able to get a link to it. Now, there are YouTube videos out there which shows that this feature is a tab that is available. But I think in order for that tab to be available, you have to be paying for NotebookLM's personal, the one that you pay $20 a month for. It doesn't appear as though it's available in the academic version or the enterprise version yet. And also in the free version of NotebookLM, it's not available, but you can get to these feature notebooks by going through this route. But you can see it's relatively new. This article was posted on the 14th, so about 11 days ago.
I think we might be at time, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing this information with us and taking the time to kind of walk us through it. It was very helpful.
Well, hopefully this will give you a starting point to begin to explore. I think the more that you play around with it, it'll act as a catalyst, if you will, for thinking of how you could use it for your own work or your own learning environment itself.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Not quite sure what to do here next. I think I lost it. Hello?
I'm still here. It's still running, but I do have to pop off for another meeting, so I will talk to you soon. But thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep. Bye.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this session.